championship. You got to hit every conceivable shot, and you're trying to do it under the most immense pressure. What do you remember most about that?
Well, I mean, obviously the last hole was a big thing, and when I just missed the green on the left side, very lucky with the cross green and everything else not to hit the spine of the green and go up towards the pin. I missed it probably by about a yard. Anyway, I finished up down on the left side in a very chunky little lie, and we know that from there onwards it was a little bit of a disappointment, of a bit of a chunk, and not getting the ball up the hill and ended up taking bogey, but it was good enough to win.
What are your fundamentals when it comes to chipping?
Well, obviously, moving onto the shot is one of the key points to allow you to get into the back of the ball without releasing the hands. So not too long a swing and not too steep would be some of my fundamentals. So it would be kind of shallow and use the loft effectively by keeping moving and keep the hands in front. So the golden rule is not let the sort of club head pass the hands as best you can for the normal shots.
Okay. What, if anything, changes when you're hitting a variety of shots from around a putting surface?
Well, I mean, I think for the really short ones, we go an awful lot closer to the ball, a lot more than the average player would do. I think I see a lot of amateur golfers will generally stand there like they're going to use a pitching wedge, and they put their hands out here, so they're already stretching out, and it's very, very hard to control a wedge from a way out. So a lot of the close stuff is done extremely close to the ball. It's literally with the heel of the club even off the ground a little bit, just for a little ding-dong, one of those kind of shots. But it's close by with the knees moving. It's not out here trying to get wristy and things. So it's stiff-wristed, short and sharp for these kind of short shots.
Okay, let's see you hit one. I mean, this very firm, tight area around these chipping greens. Just a simple one of that first pin right there.
Well, as I see here, I don't need to stand there with a big swing and loft it away in the air. So I'm going to go more for the land on the front of the green and then just bounce up towards the pin with a little bit of check on it. So what it really needs now is a little hands forward, but it's short and sharp. It's not a long swing. It's just a short doink, doink. It's like a 1-2. Middle of the feet, hands close together to the knees, and just bang, bang. That's a bad bounce, but that was the idea. So the lower I hit it, the more the ball's going to go forward. So I'm encouraging the ball to release forward by keeping it short and sharp.
Okay. So at impact, is the shaft
I would say
vertical, or is it slightly leaning?
It's slightly leaning forward.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm almost de-lofting the club a little bit.
Okay. Now, do you have any little drills that you work on that you've always employed that help you stay sharp around the green?
Well, I think when I'm sort of giving lessons to amateur partners that are very, very wristy, I want to try and keep the wrist out of chipping. If we can use the bigger muscles and the shoulders and the bigger things, and the less things can go wrong. Whereas when things start to go wrong is when we start getting very wristy. Now, what I can do as a drill to sort of counteract that is to split the hands and put the hands several inches apart.
Sure.
And you can see from there, I can't flick quite as much. If you flick, you can feel it. So it's pretty much do all the big stuff. So I'm very stiff-wristed, you see. So it's a good little drill just to learn how to chip with two hands apart. So it's boom, boom.
With very solid contact as well. The bump and run. Scott knows how to play a bump and run. And take a look at that next. That's such a beautiful little shot, that bump and run. How do you know what club to hit and where to land it?
I think a lot of it, again, is just down to practice. I mean, this is a 60-degree, but I'm hitting it almost like a one-iron down there.
Yeah.
So it's, ball position, short and sharp again, and and I almost catch the ball slightly thin, and then that just sends it out there nice and low. But it's also got a little bit of check on it as well. So you're not going to run out of control too badly if you've got a a few humps and hollers to go over.
So what are the things that you're assessing to determine where you want to land the ball and what club you want to use to play the bump and run?
Well, I mean, on this particular shot, we've got, 25 yards to the far pin. But I know the first section here is very dark. So that tells me, and all the fall-off areas here, that whatever the grain is, it's going to be slightly into.
Yeah.
So it'll be quite sticky in this first bit. So I've got to make sure I want to land it past the sticky area where I can see the colour of the green starts to change. So I've already picked my spot where I want to land it, and then I know where the grain's going and that ball's going to release.
Okay. All right, let's see another one, because that's beautiful to not only to hear the sound, but to see the way this ball reacts off the face. Now, are you focused just on the landing spot?
It's the total picture. It's the feel of the distance.
Okay.
So I'm picking on a spot, but then you've got to, when you get over the ball here, whenever you don't see everything out there, you've got it all planned in what you want to try and do.
Okay, so grab a 7-iron and also a pitching wedge, and now in swing 360, face on, what are the viewers seeing in terms of the difference with the way you're executing a bump and run with those different clubs and the effective loft?
Yeah. Well, I would say with the pitching wedge, we'll be going a little bit further back and a little straighter back here. So the club's virtually in line with the left arm, and I'm coming into the ball like that. Now with the 7-iron, I'm going a lot closer to the ball, and I'm using almost like a putter. I've got the heel off the ground, I've got my hands close to the side, and it's more like a little pop shot. I will have my feet just slightly open, but close together, because that, a bit like you were skiing, when you feel close together, you can move with your body easier rather than being standing here trying to move.
Uh-huh.
So want a nice little gentle flow with the body.
Let's see one with each club. You're going to start with the pitching wedge.
Yeah. So this is still a bump and run, but it'll be just a little bit more rounded, but a slightly longer swing.
It gets that nice rollout to it.
Nice little bit of rollout.
What's interesting is that back to that sandwich you had in your hand, the elevation is pretty similar.
Very similar, yeah. But a different sound.
Yeah.
Because the 60 degree was hit much harder.
Right.
Even though it was a short swing, but it's forcing the ball out there. I'm not slapping it, so I'm actually hitting it with the angle of the shaft slightly ahead. Now this one, I'm going to stand a lot closer to the ball, which also helped you to do more of the pendulum motion too. So if we get too far from the ball, we're going to get more rounded on the way down. I even use a putter grip sometimes, with a little finger on the outside.
Okay, put whatever club you would prefer to hit that bump and run with. Assessing lie, what are the key things for you to properly assess a lie?
So, when you get some really nasty lies, that can often happen, there's no good coming into the ball nice and shallow and in here. It's going to gather the grass. So what I will do, I will start positioning the ball virtually outside the right foot. And I will turn the club in, and I will get the toe of the club to do the job. I might even aim a little bit more to the right of target because the club face is shut. And that's more a popping motion like that. It's more that kind of motion. It's not a swing or a round or even up there. It's just almost straight back and pop it down right in the back of the ball. And that always at least sort of gets you on the contact areas. So you don't have to touch the grass.
Okay, well, winning majors, playing a lot of Ryder Cups, putting, pressure putting. He's unplugged next. What do you think is the most important thing that you want to observe when you get on a green and you've got a makeable putt?
Yeah. Well, I think what we're scanning the green as soon as we're walking up to it. Unless you really know the green completely, you know what the falls are and everything else, but some of it can be a bit misleading. I'm looking for grain, especially Florida and stuff like that. We've got everything points towards the southwest, they say, so it's a setting sun.
Yeah.
So you've got the green. So I'm looking at the grain. I'm looking at the slope. And then even then, if I'm really not sure about if the ball, especially in the last third of its roll when it's losing its power, that's when it's going to be most swinging. And I look at the tin lid, and people look at me going like, "What do you mean? Look at the tin lid?" Well, you can imagine if there was a huge slope, they're not going to put the pin in on the slope, going with the slope. They're going to put the pin in vertical, which means the cup has to be vertical down that way. So you can get a good feedback on reading what the tin lid says on the hole. And this particular one, we don't really see much going on. So, but there is some grain going, especially on the far end of we see some grain going over here. That's the rough edge. So that's pointing that way.
Yep.
So I spend a lot of time looking at the hole to get some little bit of feedback.
Okay. Let me see the stroke of that putter because
Well, this is
the Masters with that putter.
I wish I would have done it. This is what they call the lock arm putter, so it's virtually impossible to break down, and I think that's probably the curse as you get older and playing tournament golf. We tend to get a little wristy, but I had a good cure from Dave Stockton not many years ago, and he said it's just like you were paintbrushing with your left hand. So you can imagine you had the handle of a paintbrush, and you wanted the challenge of painting a white line straight.
Yep.
That's what you do. You'd paint the line like that. So you're really separating from your body with your left arm. You're not keeping everything here or using your shoulder. So to practice that, I would do it one-handed and put this right-handed, it's not used on the left wrist. So allow the left shoulder to stay quiet, like here. It's not rocking the shoulders this way. It's staying quiet. And allow the left arm to almost separate, and like you were paintbrushing. And if that goes that way, like that, the club head stays nice and square because that's your second club face.
Yeah.
So you've got the paint brushing and that's all you do really. Once you get the feel of it, is just go ahead and have some putts one-handed and get the feel of doing that. Now once you get comfortable with doing that and keep the power up, then you can add the right hand, which you can either do the claw or the pencil grip, or you can do it like that. Nicholas was very much like this.
Oh yeah.
Use that as a piston like that. Different ways of doing it. But I find the paintbrushing is a good visual, and there's sort of less things can go wrong. So once you get all the lines and everything else, you're happy with your read, you can go ahead and keep your left shoulder quiet, and away you go. Just like that.
Just like that. But what is the most unnerved you've ever felt putting for a stretch of time where you just got up and you had no conscience at all?
Like a Jordan Spieth in his early days where 15 footers were just I don't think I've sort of had that wonderful feeling, you know. I've always been a little hot and cold with putting over the years, and more cold towards the latter years because I've started to get wristy. Yeah, and that was a fatal flaw for me. But I now know to keep this right hand quiet is what I've got to do as the paintbrush. I've just got to have the guts to go out there with the regular putter and do my paintbrush. Now I think I would be well away. But I've always been, I've done well in the majors. Obviously, the putt at the Masters, I can't say it was a fluke because the words of Trevino was that if he ever wanted to have a 12-foot or 15-foot putt, he said, I'd rather have a downhill putt. And what am I faced with? About a 15-foot putt, downhill, extremely fast, which is, in some ways, under that pressure, it's a nice thing to have. Because you only need about a 4-inch backswing and then just start it off on line. And because of the greens being so nice at Augusta, it worked out